Hollywood is in the business of creating illusion. You can't always believe what you see. Welcome to Hollywood Stuntmakers.
Today on Hollywood Stuntmakers, we'll meet some of the film's most unusual creatures and the special effects magician who created them.
His name was Chucky, and he seemed harmless enough. But in the film Child's Play, he turned out to be one deadly villain.
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid!
I don't know why I'm always cast as a psychopath.
Special effects magician Kevin Yeager.
I first started on Child's Play. I got approached by a producer named David Kirshner, who came to me and said, I want to make this killer doll. And I want him to be really cute. And at one point, I want him to turn really mean. So he actually came up with a couple of sketches that he had. And he and I met with the director, Tom Holland, and sort of, it was like working at Mattel. For a while, we had 3 or 4 people giving ideas of his hair color and his eye color and his, shirt color and all kinds of things, and all the way down to his little, down here, that's right, except down here, this little stuff on his wardrobe. And then we discussed how he would, change throughout the film and become more evil. So this is the friendly head mode right now. He's very sweet. He'll go from a doll completely still, and then he'll suddenly come to life and get very, very mean.
How about the teeth? You haven't touched my teeth.
Yeah, we have a total of 5 heads, 5 different heads, 2 neutral heads, 2 smiling heads, evil smiling heads, and we have 2 screaming heads and a biting head.
You have a terrible bedside manner, Just sticking it in like that.
Ow. Relax, will you? Let me do my work. If Chucky goes from the sweet face to an evil face, and we'll take that and go even more evil, and then when he's totally enraged and screaming and murdering people, then he has his screaming head on. That's the fun head.
What's wrong? Gun jam?
We used to have 9 puppeteers, and we've come up with ways. This year, we've got a computer that runs Chucky. His facial expressions are all run by computer. Well, they're pre-programmed into the computer by puppeteers, and then they're played back on set. He's essentially a cable puppet. All the heads that I described earlier are run by servo motors and are hardwired to boxes worked by puppeteers off camera. His body is worked by up to 4 to 5 guys, and this one has cable arms, as you can see. They can extend out, and fingers that move. It can be very versatile. And we have a standing character who is also cable, and we have also a fully servo-motored Chucky for different shots. And we also have a new slave system that saves 1 extra puppeteer. So we've gone from 9 down to 7 now.
That's right. Pretty soon I'll be doing it all myself.
Yeah, and you won't need me anymore, will you?
Well,
I'll just do monsters while you're off making all the money, I guess.
Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, some of the most terrifying monsters ever captured on film. Add one more to that list, Freddy Krueger.
It's back in the saddle again. Having worked on Nightmare on Elm Street films 2, 3, and 4, Kevin Yeager has had plenty of opportunity to develop his makeup for the maniacal Freddy Krueger.
Why should we fight? We're all friends, you and I. Remember?
Let's get high.
The first Nightmare on Elm Street film was pretty exciting for me because it was my first film, and there was not only, you know, the Freddy makeup, which was already established in 1, but you never really saw him, so it was sort of allowed enough freedom to change his look, you know, give him more detail around his, you know, scar areas and stuff like that. That was quite exciting because I got to do the Freddy makeup, which was a great thrill, and to work with Robert Englund and all this. And also I had a chance to create a couple of effects, you know, a couple of puppet heads, which was at that time just enough for me. And then we got into part 3, which was my second Nightmare on Elm Street film. And in that one, I created a 10-foot Freddy snake with a head of about 1.5 feet wide and had a full mechanical face to it. And we did the chest of souls, which are these little faces that, the souls that are trapped inside of Freddy, that are on his chest, and they're screaming and trying to push out of this sort of pizza face, kind of weird, stretchy skin.
The challenge of a major makeup session every day can be a tiresome chore for the man who portrays Freddy Krueger, actor Robert Englund. So when offered another heavy makeup role, as the title character in the remake of The Phantom of the Opera, it was not an easy choice to make.
And I thought about it for a while, and I said, "Do you get me Kevin Yeager to do the makeup, who's the best guy in the world?" I said, "I'll do it." And we worked it out to get Kevin again. And I saw these genius designs of this vain aristocratic face that he'd come up with, you know, and the patchwork look to it, and the kind of Beethoven mane of hair. And I said, I have to do this.
Kevin Yeager's makeup designs have also been appreciated by the producers of the HBO series Tales from the Crypt, for which a menagerie of monsters have been concocted. He had done work on such films as The Borrower, The Hidden, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and even the Weird Al Yankovic music video, I'm Fat. We asked Kevin how these creatures are created.
My producer or director would call or say, "Hey, get this guy," or "Who's out there?" And they would send a bunch of scripts out, and I would get the scripts, break them down, find out what special effects makeup or creatures are in them. Then you take those ideas and go back to the studio and start sketching out whatever they asked you to do, you know. And I ended up doing about 3 to 4 different designs of a character like Chucky or Freddy, different, just to give them options. But you try to point them in the direction you want to go. Ultimately, you know, you're not trying to make it look like somebody else's work. Okay, Chucky, say goodbye.
Okay, but first I'd like to take this moment to say so long to my peers like Freddie and Jason, and say thanks to the Academy for the nominee that's coming up soon, probably for my next film. Won't be long, I'm sure.
Just ignore the guy behind the chin strap.
Goodbye.
Now we're going to meet Michael Westmore, one of the legends in the art of motion picture makeup.
Michael is part of the 3rd generation of Westmores to enter the field of makeup, his grandfather having started back in the 20s. Michael specializes in fantasy and science fiction makeup for such projects as TV, Star Trek, The Next Generation. But he also is well known for creating realistic makeup effects, having worked on Rocky films 1 through 4 and on Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull. Given this wide scope of subjects, we found out from Michael just how he goes about creating his fantastic characters.
To be able to source the ideas, you have to look to different vehicles. You look to books, to old pictures, to actual photographs from magazines and things. I know with Star Trek, I have an extensive library on science fiction books. There's a lot of crazy artists and things. There's certain lines which we learn from cartooning that create sadness, create happiness. And this can be put into your appliance to create the same look on the person's face, whether they're emoting or not. With the Romulans, which is like a Vulcan, except they're the bad guys. Well, on television Romulans, we have foreheads on them that have a frown built into them. So they always have this stern look to them, but they still have the pointed ears and they still have the bangs. The processes that go into making the appliances are pretty general. They're the same between the professional and the amateur that's playing in this business. It's just that with the professional person, it becomes more refined. What we basically start with is taking a cast of an actor's face, such as right here with LeVar Burton on Star Trek. This was a character that we had to develop for him. So we have this, the mold here, which is known as the master mold or the positive mold. And on this, with green clay or Roma clay, we will sculpt the exact design that we want to turn into rubber. Over here is an example of a face that is in production now. And this is the green clay, where you're able to work and smooth all the lines out and develop it and make changes at this point before you actually get the latex piece made. On top of this, we pour another plaster mold, which is known as the negative mold. And then when that dries, they're separated and the clay is cleaned away. Once you have the two pieces of mold, and I'll do this for an example, here's a nose, and here is the negative, the positive, the negative mold. Inside this, foam latex is poured. It's mixed up in a mix master, such as the one right here. It's poured in, whipped up like chocolate mousse, poured into the mold, put into the oven, and baked again at 200 degrees. After so many hours, depending on the size of the mold, whether it's an hour or 3 hours, the mold is taken out of the oven, and the rubber is taken out. And what the heating does is it vulcanizes the rubber. This is a piece that LeVar wore, and it fits exactly over his head here. Get that down into place. That's the raw mold, and that's the way it would be on his face just before we go to make him up. Then taking the different colors of makeup, you take and we match the skin tone, and here's a sample of it here of the actual character that he played. In this particular one, he had to glow, so all these blue veins that are on here were done in UV paint, so when the UV lights were turned on, along with the normal light, his whole body had a shimmer to him, along with a lot of the other characters.
Georgie, my voice is familiar. Listen to it. You can feel that we share this.
When it comes to the most challenging makeup job, it's hard to pinpoint any one. The longest one I ever had was Raging Bull. I was on it for 14 months, and that seemed like a lifetime. In fight scenes, we have to make a lot of different scars and bruises. In Raging Bull, we did the makeup 120 times. So I had to have 120 noses and 120 eyepieces, along with all the different bruised eyes and scars. Here's an example is a bruised eye that fits right in here. This is one that would create the eye to appear almost totally swollen shut, because the upper piece here glues right down onto the upper lid, and then we have the swollen piece underneath the eye, the full thing up here, and then we'd come back in and just lay on a few little hairs for eyebrow hairs, which gives the eye more of the swollen look. And then, of course, because of the thickness of the mold, you highlight the tops of it, and you can actually make the swollen eyes look twice as swollen as they are. The most special makeup effect in Raging Bull would have been when one of the actors had to have his nose broken on camera and have blood squirt out of it. The actor's only qualification had to be his nose had to be small, so we could construct a nose that was large enough to go over the top of it. And actually the fake nose was more in contour and design with the actor's real face. Underneath that nose was a little plastic teeter-totter that fulcrumed across his bridge. So if you pushed on one side of it, it would push up on the appliance, making the bone look like it had broken. Also, one nostril was constructed out of wax. And the boxer that was hitting him in the face had a bloodline that ran down his arm and out the boxing glove. So when the actor actually made contact with him, and he had to make contact to be able to set off the teeter-totter, crush the nostril, and then the blood had to go, and the timing on all this had to be perfect.
In the film Total Recall, makeup artist Rob Bottin helped turn Arnold Schwarzenegger's dream vacation into a trip he'd never forget.
Want to feel good?
Not bad, huh?
Read your palm, your mind, your aura, probe the secrets of your heart.
I bet I can guess your birthday.
What is it?
Your entire story.
How did you guess?
In Total Recall, we were supposed to create a colony of mutants. So the director really cautioned me. He said, like, when we see the first mutant in the movie, we have to make sure that it's like a mutation that isn't really that big of a deal, you know. So you look at it and you go, oh my God, you know, what's wrong with these people? You know, this is horrible. The next mutant would then build into a little bit more of a, you know, a little more of a shocker. So we see this one guy in the bar who has this weird, you know, like kind of flesh thing growing over one eye so you don't see it. And he's got this really weird sort of twisted brain thing. I mean, it's actually, he's pretty wild.
You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here, Hauser. Look who's talking.
Then later on, we see the creme de la creme of mutants, which is a character named George. This character, actually, when people see the movie, they don't actually realize that the little baby is not the only special effect in the scene. Also, the guy wearing it is a special effect. The actor was not even present during the scene. So when you see the guy walking and he's in a trance and the little baby's coming alive and starting to wake up and talk, the whole thing, the whole guy from head to toe is a mechanical replica of Marshall Bell, the actor that portrayed George. We took, you know, a total, you know, casting off of Marshall Bell from head to toe and actually had an entire slave mechanism that you slip into. That when the actual operator moves his arm and moves his fingers and his head and stuff like that, this character will duplicate the motion in front of the camera. And this was also the same way that the little mutant brother was operated, was someone else slipped into another slave suit and they moved their hands. So when he points at Arnold and he says, you know, give me your hand, you know, there's actually a performer performing these movements off camera. The mechanical effects that I did in Total Recall were actually like when Arnold was disguised as, and they call her this in the script, the fat lady. I didn't name her that, you know. When you see the woman start to malfunction, that's actually the actress. Then we cut to another head, which is a fully articulated robotic duplicate of the woman, which begins to shake and the eyes roll around and it has this really weird expression on its head. And then, you know, the ear pushes in and comes out like a cartridge. It shuts and the wig ejects. That's another head. That's head number 2. Head number 3 is the Venetian head, and it begins to open, 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 open. And this is done with this thing back here, which is took many, many months to create. You know, all the mechanical, you know, bearings and tracks and everything that are all precision machined to actually be able to open this mask up, which was actually lifted behind Arnold hydraulically on one of those things that you would usually use to lift a car to work on it in a garage because the thing's so heavy. Even Arnold couldn't pick it up, and let alone wear it. And then we have the real Arnold standing here, you know, we're framed up here on yet another fat lady mask, brings the mask down into the shot, which is basically just a head, and throws it off camera. The guys catch, you know, that head off camera, cut over their shoulder, and now we see what is the mask but appears to be talking, which is now the actual actress herself made up to look like a bald version of herself with the lip of the mask down here, and then they rotoscope out her body and sandwich in another background. So it looks like her head's actually floating there talking. That is done optically and using a combination of makeup effects and the optical effects. And then it explodes, which is yet another fat lady head.
Get ready for a surprise!
There were so many different kinds of special effects. You know, there was the opticals, the computers, the makeup, everything that I've mentioned before. And for that, you know, for our outstanding achievement, we won an Academy Award, you know, this year, our whole group or whatever, so that was really neat to be recognized for that. You know, because it was a lot of work and actually some really groundbreaking, innovative stuff.